Okay, so let's get right into it because we're talking about a huge story unfolding at the crossroads of tech, big money, and politics. It's all about Elon Musk jumping back into the political ring, and wow, is it ever stirring up a massive debate about power, money, and what the future of America is even going to look like? And just to set the stage here, Musk himself put out this pretty intense warning on his own platform X. I mean, he is not pulling any punches. He's making it crystal clear that he sees the next elections as a make or break moment for the entire country. This isn't just him tweeting from the sidelines. Nope. After his last run-in with politics, which reportedly cost him a pretty penny, he's apparently ready to open up that massive checkbook of his all over again. And this time, he's looking ahead to the 2026 midterm campaigns. So the big question is, what does this all actually mean for the political game? To really get a handle on it, let's start by looking at the argument that this is a huge, undeniable win for the Republican Party. Well, from this point of view, the answer is loud and clear yes. His supporters see him coming back as a massive strategic advantage, and for a whole bunch of reasons. He brings a pretty unique mix of resources and, of course, influence to the table. The first thing, and the most obvious one, is the money, right? With his kind of wealth, his financial firepower is seen as this incredibly powerful tool, not just to fund campaigns, but to directly reach out, influence, and get voters fired up on a scale that's hard to even imagine. And it's not just about the money. His supporters also paint this picture of him making a kind of personal sacrifice. The argument goes that his companies and his own fortune took a real hit because of his political stances, which kind of frames him as a guy who's willing to pay the price for what he believes in. This slide really gets to the heart of the bigger ideological war that his supporters think he's fighting. They see him as this champion for America's capitalist roots, pushing back against what they see as a slide toward a more government-heavy, maybe even a democratic socialist system. So if you're looking at it from this side, his return is a win on pretty much every level. You've got the cash, a super famous voice for a certain kind of America, a story about personal sacrifice, and, hey, maybe even a chance to smooth things over with Donald Trump. It's the whole package. Okay, but that's only half the story. Let's flip the coin and look at the other side, because it paints a very different picture. For a lot of people, this isn't a strategic win at all. It's a really worrying sign of a much bigger problem in American politics. Yeah, and this really captures the feeling on the other side. It all comes down to a basic question of fairness. I mean, the image of the richest person on the planet just flat out saying he's going to influence elections, it just feels wrong to a lot of people. It seems to go against the whole idea of one person, one vote. In a high-profile situation like this, it could be the very thing that sparks a real push for change. Someone even said it could create a real tornado of public anger, with people demanding new rules to put a cap on how much money can influence our politics. Of course, as soon as you start talking about Musk's influence, another name almost always pops up: George Soros. He's often pointed to as the counterexample, a billionaire who uses his massive wealth to push for causes on the other side of the political spectrum. But beyond all the ethics and the should he or shouldn't he, there's a simple, practical question. Will all this money even work? Some people are pretty skeptical. They look at recent elections and say the political winds are blowing in a direction that even Musk's billions might not be able to change. But hang on, what if this isn't really about right versus left at all? The conversation also hints at something deeper going on, something that's less about political parties and more about what really matters to any huge business owner. See, from this perspective, Musk's involvement is all about his bottom line. The real motivation here is economics, plain and simple. He wants to keep regulations light so his companies can move fast, protect tax policies that are good for business, and make sure a new government doesn't just come in and undo the whole economic setup he's thriving in. And this really just brings it all home. It's a throwback to that classic political line, right? It's the argument that for guys like Musk, when you strip everything else away, their political moves are always going to be about the economic direction of the country. So, after hearing both sides of this really complicated issue, we're left with this fundamental tension, and it gets right to the core of how our politics works today. So which is it? Is what he's doing just a smart, maybe even necessary move in a super high-stakes political game? Or does it pose a real threat to the basic principles of fairness and equality that are supposed to be the foundation of a democracy? And that, right there, that's the bottom line. This whole thing is bigger than just one election or one billionaire. It forces every single one of us to think about a really tough question that has no easy answer. In a system that's built on the idea that we're all politically equal, how much influence is too much for any one person to have?